what are the risks that entrepreneurs who live high stress, low sleep, too much bad food?
Chronic stress will have a greater impact on your healthy aging and disease risk.
Michaela Sparrow is a leading Australian naturopath, nutritionist, and anti-aging expert passionate about bridging the gap between health span and lifespan.
How can someone tell the difference going, my life's perfect, yet I'm anxious?
80% of your serotonin is made in your gut by your microbiome. So your happy hormone, same as dopamine, which is your motivation hormone. If the microbiome's not happy, this slowly has a cascading effect on the rest of your health, including...
What's a little hack?
This is what I recommend.
Hey guys, today's podcast is a little bit different. It's not just about increasing sales and starting businesses. This is talking to you, the entrepreneur, about health, about longevity, and about gut health. I can raise my hand. I don't concentrate enough on this topic, and it's one thing that we all overlook. We're in a fight or flight state all the time as entrepreneurs, and this is a very, very important topic. Michela from the Longevity Remedy dives deep into how coffee, alcohol, and sugar affect our gut health and our performance, the impacts on our gut health on anxiety and depression, and Adam and Mark even go into their own journey in regards to their gut health and anxiety and depression and the link between those two. Make sure you watch it right till the end. She gives us amazing tips, so much information. There's so much gold in this podcast. Hope you guys enjoy it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another podcast at Unemployable. Today, we're switching things up a little bit, and we've got someone in the house today named Michaela Sparrow. How are you, Michaela?
Very good. A little nervous.
A little nervous. I'm a little bit nervous too. Obviously, new face. I'm anchoring this one. Adam has promoted me, and he just literally said 5 minutes ago, hey, do you want to do this one? And I'm like, okay. So here we are. Now, Michaela, your business, the Longevity Remedy.
Yes.
This is a little bit different, guys. Usually we're going to be talking about business. We're talking about numbers. We're talking about ads, how to grow your business. Us as entrepreneurs, especially me, always in a fight or flight state. I'm juggling multiple balls all the time. Same with Adam. Same with Mark. And
I got no comment on that one, mate.
Had to.
You
just had to.
You just
All
hung
right.
it out there.
I don't know what balls you're juggling, but and it's something what we overlook is health. And I'll put up my hand with that. I don't take care of myself like I should. My missus is always on to me in regards to that topic. And Mark has been really into this topic for a long time. He talks about it with us off camera a lot. And I know Mark's one of your clients, right, Mark?
Yeah,
that's where the introduction came from.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, I am a naturopath, a clinical nutritionist, and I specialize in anti-aging and longevity medicine. So I guess I'll give you a rundown of what naturopathic medicine is. So it is a evidence-based modality. What we're doing with naturopathic medicine is we're looking at you as a whole person and how all your body systems are interacting, because what's happening in one system will affect another. But also what we're doing is looking at addressing the root cause of disease and not being healthy, right? So rather than a Band-Aid solution, we're looking at what can we do to really fix you properly and lead you to optimal health. And there's a really big kind of the main approach is like preventative medicine, right? So prevention is greater than cure. So we kind of tie all that in, and I use a lot of it's like personalized nutrition and diet, lifestyle, herbal medicine, supplementation, movement. So we use multiple different modalities to get you really healthy. I guess the way that I work though is I'm very kind of realistic and sustainable. So I live and I promote an 80-20 rule. So good 80% of the time, bad 20% of the time, because I like pizza and pasta and margaritas and all that stuff. And I think if we're good 80% of the time, that will cancel out that bad 20%. Although that being said, on a holiday, like I am up here for a little holiday as well, it'll probably be 4 days of 20%, right? But we'll go back to 80. Yeah.
And I think that's what I've learned working with you is the really, really important thing is when you say preventative rather than normal medicine, a lot of the times people don't realize where to start preventing.
Yes.
Like it's too late when you have heart disease or high cholesterol. It's too late when I started seeing you, I had reflux and thought I was dying of a heart attack. Like at that point, we're already many years, months down the track.
Yes.
So can you maybe guide us through where preventative starts as well?
Well, I mean, that's the thing too. Like prevention can start also while we're working on reversing or improving your health, right? So regardless, like most of the people I work with are very chronically ill. They have a lot of chronic health issues that have stemmed from chronic stress as well, lots of hormonal issues, autoimmune conditions, cardiovascular disease, metabolic disorders. So I will work on those first, and then we can get the body into a healthier state where we can start preventing further, I guess, risk of disease and aging as well.
Let's talk about it specifically in the context of entrepreneurs, because our listeners are all entrepreneurs.
Yes.
High stress, struggle with sleep, probably eat convenience foods.
Yep.
I know myself, I didn't realize I had mental health challenges until I was in the back of an ambulance in Los Angeles having my first full-scale panic attack, thinking it was a heart attack, and then didn't realize the physical, like that's sort of like a mental health challenge. Yep. And then I didn't realize there's also physical health challenges that come out of sustained periods of high cortisol levels and all of that sort of stuff. So maybe from a clinician's point of view, like what are the risks that entrepreneurs who live high stress, low sleep, occasionally too much bad food, what are the common signs that they should be taking steps? Like what are they doing to themselves through that?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, because for a lot of people, mentally, you're okay, right? Until for you, your body's way to stop you was I'm going to have a panic attack. So for a lot of people, you'll soldier on, keep going. I'm going to keep working harder. Your body's going to start sending you red flags to stop, slow down. So the biggest one is really that either struggling to fall asleep or waking during the night, especially between 2 and 4 a.m. And then you kind of, you wake up, you're suddenly awake, and then you're laying there for an hour or two thinking about all the stuff you've got to do, and it takes you a long time to fall back asleep. So
that's a red flag.
That's a red flag, because that's telling you your body's in a really high cortisol state and you're getting a bigger spike of cortisol in the morning than you should. Especially struggling to unwind, or a lot of people. So I guess the classic signs of chronic stress, right? Waking tired, okay? So you're not jumping out of bed, leaping out of bed. You're kind of forcing yourself out of bed. You've got to get on, and you have a coffee to get you going, and then you're rushing around and your morning's kind of rushing. You'll probably get like a bit of a brain fog or energy crash in the afternoon, where you need a coffee or you need a sweet treat to pep you up to get you through. And then you'll find, you'll get that second win usually after dinner, where you might be really tired, but mentally you kind of, maybe you get a bit more creative, maybe you get a few more ideas, or you need to stay up late and read or watch TV to unwind, to kind of have that unwind time, because it takes you a lot longer. And then you're going to struggle to fall asleep unless you're absolutely exhausted. But a lot of the time you'll either wake during the night, or you won't get into those deeper stages of sleep as well. So you'll toss and turn a lot. You'll have very vivid, stressful dreams. And if you wake up in the morning and you remember your dreams really well for the rest of the day, it's a good indication that we didn't get into those deeper stages of quality sleep.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, how much of that, like check for me.
Same.
And I think most entrepreneurs, if James was here, it'd be double check on some of those, right? Like he doesn't sleep and hardly really struggles with it. How much of this solution is a psychological help, like as in going to a therapist and getting mental help? I'm not joking. It sounds like I am, but how much of it is, dude, you need to talk to somebody, and how much of it is what we're putting into our body and our like what we eat and other habits outside of mental health?
I would say, look, when we look at chronic stress, right, we have stress or cortisol release is a survival mechanism. So we have the amygdala in our brain, which is like the smoke alarm. And when that goes off, when we identify danger, that triggers our sympathetic nervous system, our fight or flight response. And then that triggers our cortisol release, so we can run for our life. So it kind of can be like a chicken and egg scenario, right? Because if you're in that survival mode all the time, then it's going to be very easy for your brain to identify danger. And it'll be the smallest thing. So maybe you're running late for work and you get cut off in traffic. That's going to, if you're in a high cortisol, high chronic stress state, that's going to trigger your fight or flight all day, which then you get the thoughts, right? The anxiety, and that's going to impact obviously nutrient absorption, dopamine levels as well, serotonin, your happy hormone. So it can all have a cascading effect on your mental health. And then it'll trigger how you're feeling mentally. But both of them are really important, right? I think getting the baseline though, your diet, your lifestyle, your habits sorted, if you don't address that, then you can get all the therapy you want, but you're never going to get your body out of that stress state and make your body feel safe.
And the long-term damage of sustained stress, because entrepreneurship is constantly worrying about a range of things that may or may not go wrong.
Yeah.
Could be staff, it could be cash flow, it could be product issues. Like, it's just a shit show on all sides.
Yes.
So what is the impact? Like, what are some of the diseases or things that could manifest in our bodies if we do years or even decades of long-term sustained toxic, too high cortisol levels?
A lot. It's chronic stress will have a greater impact on your healthy aging and disease risk as smoking cigarettes. Okay. Long term, it will increase your risk of most age-related diseases. I want to give you a breakdown of some of the ways that stress impacts your body and how it functions, and then how that then affects disease down the track. So the first thing is, when you are releasing lots of cortisol, you're running for your life, right? That's what your body thinks. We're running from that saber-toothed tiger. So we're going to shut down all the beneficial functions that for long-term health, so we can have like quick, immediate survival, okay? So the first thing is digestion. Chronic stress will shut down stomach acid production. Stomach acid is needed for healthy absorption of minerals like magnesium, zinc, iron, iodine. Magnesium and zinc both have over 300 different functions in the body for hormones, cardiovascular health, nervous system, immunity. So low-grade nutritional deficiencies over time, your body's not going to function properly, and that's going to increase risk of many diseases. It's going to shut down proper liver detoxification. That will lead to a recirculation of a lot of toxins, oxidative stress, inflammation. That'll imbalance your hormones, which we know we need healthy hormone balance as we age. It'll create a lot of systemic inflammation in the body as well, which will increase your risk of cardiovascular disease, heart attack, dementia, cognitive decline as well. It'll also increase your risk of insulin resistance and blood sugar dysregulation. And there's a correlation between blood sugar dysregulation and 8 of the top 10 leading causes of death. So when we look at that, healthy aging, disease prevention, we really want to keep that blood sugar happy. So when you have that high cortisol release, your body's like, oh, we've got to run for our life now. So you'll get a big release of glucose into the blood to give you some energy to run for your life. And when you get that blood sugar spike, you get that insulin surge, and then you get that big blood sugar drop. And that's where you get that afternoon energy crash. And that's one of the reasons too why you might wake up in the middle of the night. And look, it's blood sugar dysregulation and insulin resistance is very, very common. A lot of the symptoms are not very noticeable, so you can go many years without realizing.
And it takes a lot to get diagnosed for diabetes. Like if you're being diagnosed with diabetes, you're already so far down that path. And that's why I wear a glucose monitor to kind of, because it's like that early warning sign. If I can keep my glucose under control, keep my glucose stable, then I can hopefully prevent all the rest of those diseases. And that's what we're working on a lot.
Yeah,
well.
definitely.
So Mark, off camera, we were talking, and I asked, how do you know Michela? And you said you come across an Instagram reel that basically screamed out to you going, I got to contact this person. Do you mind if I ask, like, what were some of the stuff, what were some of the things that you're dealing with at that time that made you reach out to Michela? Yeah.
So, I mean, my journey started where, I was stressed about taking a COVID vaccine, right? So that's where it all started. And then I started thinking about health. And then from there, I got onto the topic of longevity. And so I set this silly goal to live to 120. And then I started looking at all the longevity and health hacks, etc. So, all the supplements, NAD, fasting, ice baths, all the things you've probably heard, all the buzzwords. I got about 12, 18 months into the journey, and I wasn't getting better or stronger. I was getting worse. My sleep was deteriorating. I started getting pain in my chest, which I didn't know what it was. It turns out it was low stomach acid, but the doctors were prescribing me things to to get rid of stomach acid, so it was making it even worse. And I'd gotten to the point where my body was shutting down. I was in such a flight or fight state that I couldn't sleep, and I was having regular panic attacks. And I heard this reel of Michela, and she did a podcast where she basically spoke about reflux, heartburn, and the link, that kind of that chicken and egg scenario that you're talking about, the link between that and sneaky stress. And I thought, oh my God, I've paid thousands of dollars with anti-aging experts and longevity experts, and they've given me the test to see if there's low or high stomach acid, but not one person has gone and addressed my gut part of my health. So that's when I heard that, I thought, wow, this is 12 months of information tied together in a way that was really easy to understand.
Now, you mentioned panic attacks, and I know that you've mentioned that before as well, Adam, and it just gets mentioned, panic attack. What is a panic attack, and what does it feel like? Because I think I've had them, but I'm not sure if it's exactly a panic attack or not, because I've dealt with anxiety over the years as well.
I think this is a great question, and I'll give my opinion, and then maybe you can give a more clinical version and a truer version of what it is. But like before I even had a what you would definitely call a panic attack, heart rate spiking to 180, needing to escape the room, being on the ground, thinking you're going to die of a heart attack, calling the ambulance. Like I ended up in emergency twice because I thought I was having a heart attack, similar to Adam's story. But what I didn't realize at the time, that's like the typical version of a panic attack. But what I didn't realize at the time is if I look back 12, 18 months, when I would go to bed at night and the noise of the day had cleared, I'd feel tingling around my chest and around my heart. And that anxiety and panic was starting in those moments. So I think there's a much broader spectrum of panic attacks than what the typical definition of panic attacks are. And maybe you could talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think there's a spectrum of anxiety, right? And when you get to panic attack mode, that is you're in such an active state of sympathetic nervous system response. So all of those survival mechanisms are going into overdrive. So that heart rate, you're sweating, the mind's racing, everything's shutting down. A lot of people though assume that you're on the ball thinking you're going to die all the time, right? When you have a panic attack, but it can be just, I mean, externally you might look okay, but inside the heart's going really, really fast. That's a big symptom of that panic attack. But the rushing thoughts and just clammy hands and not feeling safe are kind of the main ones. But everyone experiences anxiety differently, because a lot of people too, when you have experienced anxiety for a long period of time, it can be your new normal, right? So this is like I'm just functioning at a level of anxiety for so long, and then your body just can't cope anymore, and then you have these kind of explosions of extreme symptoms.
And I would go as far as saying, you know, when we were first starting our business, we'd have things happen like the supplier did this and that someone else did that, and I would go into a tailspin and get super frustrated and become abrupt, and like I was going. To me, that is a version of a panic attack, right? That is my body panicking at the stimulus that is happening around me.
Yeah, it's like a reaction.
Yeah, and when you get to that full blown, that's when your body's just saying enough's enough.
Yeah. See, with me, I think my anxiety comes more from like situational anxiety, not so much like I'm dealing with a lot of things at the same time. And yesterday was one of those days where it was just like, I felt like I got punched in the face 5 times. Yeah. Right. And I felt my mood just come down and the thoughts going like kind of falling into almost like a victim mentality. Right. Yeah. But I'm very aware of that, which is great because a lot of us aren't aware, and awareness is a big thing. And I just put on my headphones and went for a walk by myself. Yep. Had dinner by myself yesterday. Like I just needed just time. Right. And I think with situational anxiety as an example, or panic attacks and stuff versus bad gut health. Right. So I'm like, I'll blame it on, I know why I felt that way because of this happening to me. I'm not thinking that, it's because my bad gut health is making it worse. So how can someone tell the difference going, my life's perfect. I have zero anxiety, like nothing to be anxious about. Yet I'm anxious. Does
Yeah.
that mean it's hereditary? Does that mean it's bad gut health? Like, how do they link? And,
Yeah.
and this is the big thing where I think the confusion comes from, going, oh, you must have bad gut health. You can't eat this, or you can't do that, or
become
you
a
feel
buzz
this
term.
way. It's like, so how do
Yeah.
you?
A lot of people can't imagine
Yeah.
mental health stemming from gut
Correct.
health.
Like
Yes.
the
Yes.
whole thing,
I
right?
actually don't understand the link
Yeah.
myself, so
Your
I'd be
gut's
really
your second.
curious.
Your gut's your second
Yeah,
I've
brain.
always
Dive in.
put it down to overwhelm for extended periods of time and having too much on my plate. But maybe it's a matter of having the wrong things on my physical dinner plate as well.
It can be both, right? So I should really say that like experiencing anxiety from time to time is normal. You know, like there's nothing wrong with it. It's a normal response to stressful situations, right? So for me, this morning coming here, I was a bit anxious. I've got clammy hands. That's a normal stress response, an anxiety response. That's okay. What you want to look at though is how often is it happening? If it's happening every day and it's taking a long time after you have that anxiety attack or those feelings of anxiety to relax and unwind, and if you're experiencing a lot of the other symptoms, right? Then maybe there's an issue. But if, once or twice a week, like you've got a deadline, something's happened and you're experiencing some anxiety over that, that's pretty normal. But it's when it's chronic most days or quite a few times a week and it's impacting the rest of your life and you're looking at these other symptoms that I mentioned, then you're going, okay, it's more than just a little bit of situational anxiety.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing though, right? Like it can start off as situational anxiety, but if you're constantly you're in a stress, you're busy, you're running a company, you've got lots of stress. What happens is when we experience chronic stress for longer than 3 weeks, that's what chronic stress is. Our body wants to stay in that sympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight state, because you've been running for your life. Well, we're not safe, so we're going to stay there. And that's when you'll start to have those issues or those other symptoms. And that's where little things will trigger the anxiety or the overwhelm or the stress, and it will take a lot longer to get over them. Or you'll need something like alcohol or, a coping mechanism to numb the pain. And when it comes to how does gut health impact anxiety or contribute to that? Well, in quite a few different ways. Okay. So rewind to, it's like that chicken and egg scenario. You're experiencing chronic stress, it's shutting down that stomach acid, production. We're not absorbing magnesium and zinc properly. They're both needed for nervous system regulation and GABA production. So GABA is an inhibitory neurotransmitter that calms you down and relaxes you. So if you're low in that, it's going to be harder to relax and calm down, and you're going to experience anxiety a lot easier. And our nervous system will be a lot more dysregulated, and it will want to stay in that sympathetic nervous system state, the fight or flight, rather than the parasympathetic, which is the rest and digest, if we don't have enough magnesium and zinc. And there's many other vitamins and minerals as well, right? So that's one thing. We have our microbiome as well, so our gut bacteria, and that plays a significant role in every aspect of human health. But that chronic stress will impact the health of the microbiome. And then you add in diet, and are you feeding your microbiome? Are you drinking too much alcohol? All these factors that can impact the microbiome, and they can create lots of chronic inflammation that can impact your mood, that can put your body into a sneaky stress state.
What is a microbiome and what does it do for us?
So the microbiome is the gut bacteria. Well, actually, we have literally every part of our body inside and out is covered in bacteria, okay? The one in your gut is when a lot of people are talking about the microbiome, they're going to be talking about the gut bacteria. So millions and millions or trillions really of gut bacteria that live in our gut. And we have kind of like a symbiotic relationship with them. And they help us, they make vitamins, so they'll help make B vitamins, which are needed for nervous system regulation and energy and hormones. They will make short-chain fatty acids from the food we feed them, and that will play a role in oxidative stress and inflammation, which are going to impact healthy aging and, disease. And then they play a role in that neurotransmitter production as well. So about 80% of your serotonin is made in your gut by your microbiome. So your happy hormone, the same as dopamine, which is your motivation hormone, and then you've got GABA too, so the inhibitory neurotransmitter. So if the microbiome is not happy, this slowly has a cascading effect on the rest of your health, including your mental health. So there's a lot of research now that's come out about, and what I do in my clinic, if I'm working on, like when I'm working on a client, I'm working on everything. We're just like, let's just get you as healthy as possible, because there's no one thing, right? There's so many different things. But there's a lot of research that's come out about the microbiome and its impact on mental health.
So for a lot of people listening to this, there's some core habits they know are probably not good for them.
Yes.
But they haven't been told in medical terms
Yes.
the impact. So for example, everyone loves a coffee.
Yeah.
Everyone eats sugar.
Yeah.
Some of us too much. Right? So coffee, sugar, and alcohol are probably three of the biggest ones for most people listening.
Yep.
So what does coffee, sugar, and alcohol do to our microbiome, or fizzy drinks, things that we know are not good for us? What does it do to our biome? How does that impact us? And what's the long-term damage if we don't get that shit sorted out?
Well, coffee, I don't think there's any problem with having one coffee a day. Okay. The issue with coffee, and it's not so much an impact on the microbiome, but having coffee on an empty stomach first thing in the morning without food is one of the worst things you can do for long-term health. Because
I literally do that every morning.
Everybody does.
All the morning fasting people do that. Like I used to do that. I used to have a long black in the morning to get me to lunchtime.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because what happens is the reason you get energy from coffee is it gives you a surge of cortisol. Right? So cortisol gives you energy to run for your life. So if you have that coffee first thing in the morning, you get a big surge of cortisol, and then you're starting your day in a stress state. So then you get that blood sugar spike and the insulin surge and that blood sugar dysregulation, stomach acid shuts down, inflammation, all these effects.
That's funny, because I used to drink coffee, but I don't drink coffee anymore, because when I drink it, I haven't drank it for a long time. And when I did drink it, that feeling reminded me of anxiety. And I'm like, that's not a good feeling for me. My brain goes, anxiety, not good. Yep. And I stopped drinking coffee. I haven't drank coffee in probably 6 years.
So coffee is actually creating the stress we're trying to avoid. We've got enough stress as entrepreneurs, and then we literally drink a cup of stress first thing in the morning.
But if you have a high protein breakfast first, and then you have your coffee, you won't get that spike. Okay. And also my thing is, no coffee on an empty stomach, eat food first, and then no coffee after 11 a.m. Because caffeine has a half-life of about 8 hours. So it's going to keep you up and keep you in that stress state in the evening.
So that's
as well.
coffee.
Yes. Okay.
Thanks for ruining my routine. I appreciate it.
But also for a lot of people, and I see this all the time, like most people that come and see me are not eating breakfast and they're having their coffee. When you are in that chronically stressed state, you won't wake up hungry, because you're in a high cortisol state, right? So we're not going to be hungry because we're in survival mode. What do we need though? I need something to start my day. So I have a coffee, and that just kind of keeps you in that cycle, right? Yeah.
It's like, a lot of people can wake up, not eat, have a coffee and be fine. Yeah. But when we're starting to experience more sneaky stress and we do these things like coffee and sugar, then that vicious cycle just feeds on itself.
Yeah.
So like Adam said, coffee. Now what about alcohol?
Alcohol is antibacterial and antimicrobial, right? So when you drink it, it's killing bacteria. So it's killing bacteria in your gut. So again, I live an 80-20 rule because I love a cocktail. So it's keeping that balance, right? And then also, if you're feeding your microbiome and nourishing it most of the time, that you're not going to have that effect if you're having a few drinks, once a week. But if we're drinking most days, we're killing off that microbiome. The problem is though, when we are killing off the microbiome, there's so many different types of bacteria that we have in our gut. Some of them, if you heard their name, you would think they were a bad one, right? So we have like E. coli in the gut and Candida in the gut. It's just that the levels are what matter. So we have the good and the bad at different levels, and we want the good to be higher than the bad. But the bad stuff is, I would say, like opportunistic. So as the good stuff drops, the bad stuff overgrows. And this is where we get a lot of health issues too, especially digestive symptoms, a lot of brain fog and fatigue as well. So long-term, obviously, chronic alcohol consumption is not great for a whole bunch of other reasons as well, but especially the microbiome.
And I've got a point that could probably help illustrate the link between gut health and stress, right? I went and did all the tests, and I've got I would consider in the top echelon of high protein diets. And when I did my tests and I got my protein markers back, they were all low. And it's like, how can that be? I'm eating so much protein, more protein than the average person, but all my markers were low. And it's basically because my gut wasn't getting the nutrients to the places that they needed to go because of stress. So it's not like one causes one or the other causes. It's they work in a symbiosis.
Yeah, exactly. One thing that I do too, when I mentioned when I work with clients one-on-one, I work on their whole health, right? But the first thing I always work on is adrenal, so a stress response, and nervous system. Because you can take all of the fancy, expensive supplements, eat all the healthy food you want, but if you're not addressing that stress response, it's not going to do anything. It's just a waste of time and money.
So I was just going to say, for all entrepreneurs listening to this, and I learned this the hard way through hospital visits in the back of ambulances, do not underestimate, if you are running a business as an entrepreneur, do not underestimate the amount of stress that you're having. And when I got therapy, one of the most valuable experiences I did was very simple. And I still do it now, get a blank piece of paper and put a circle in the middle and put me and then draw out and then put first one, family, and a little, circle out to the side, and then go and think about all the stuff you're thinking about around family, then go business, and then create a little sort of tree of things that you're dealing with in business, from a bad hire that you made to that new SKU that you just ordered for your product that's not selling, to the competitor that just left you a 1-star review, to, whatever it is. And just once the pen starts moving, there's this little voice inside of you that goes, thank God he's listening for a minute. And you can just unload. And you have family, you have business, you have your health. Like you've listened to this podcast with Michela and she told you to stop drinking coffee in the morning and lower your sugar. You still didn't do it. You're worried about now having a heart attack, and you're worried about this. You write down all the things you're worried about, how you haven't gone back to get that doctor's appointment because you're worried that your cholesterol is still going to be high. So write it all down, and then you'll see how much you're actually dealing with. And men in particular are world-class experts at bullshitting themselves around the amount of stress that they're dealing with. And women as well. You've got your stresses that you're worried about, but you often don't express anywhere. Put it on paper, and then you'll go, oh wow, so this has got to be in the mix when you go see 100%. Someone like you, because that mental side of it is. And the doctor literally said to me, Adam, they say stress is a killer for a reason. And I could explain all the science, but let me just tell you, you're poisoning yourself with chemicals. Made it that simple for me. If you don't learn to relax and manage this stress better, you will kill yourself early. Yeah. That's the bottom line. Yeah,
I agree. And it's really important to process, right? But also if you're putting something out on paper, it's easier to understand, look at all the stuff that I'm dealing with. Like, it's okay that I feel this way. And you can work through.
It makes it real. It externalizes it.
Yeah.
And then, because a lot of times I think in my discussions with entrepreneurs, and mostly men, is they just ignore it. They just pretend it's not real, and this makes it real, and then it makes it okay, because so often, particularly in this country, people who suffer anxiety and mental health challenges know that they live in a great country. They should be happy, right? And then that only compounds it, because then now you've got this thing as now another box here is, now I'm worrying about how much of an ungrateful piece of crap I am because I should be happy. Yeah. I've got 2 beautiful kids. I've got a G-Wagon. I've got money in the bank. Why am I stressed? Yeah. Why am I worried? Why am I feeling depressed, right? And then that's a whole nother compound area. So writing it down...
That's
really
exactly when my stress reached its pinnacle. When I just had Frankie, I wasn't really working much. I was eating bagels for breakfast with coffee. I was living the dream life, and that's when my stress kicked in, because I'm assuming my mind was like, well, you don't have anything distracting you to fight during the day, that it was all coming and getting me at night. And I think your strategy is such a good strategy to write it out, because if you're waking up in the middle of the night, it could be because you've got digestion issues. That's the gut side of it. But the subconscious side of it is all the things that you haven't yet got down on paper. So getting those things out on paper consciously before you go to bed can hopefully help to fix that mental side of it.
So I think if you're going to go see Michaela, it'd be good to do this exercise and then walk in and say, that's what I'm dealing with. So you got an idea of the degree of cortisol you're working against when you're prescribing. And one of the other big things I was getting wrong was I went on, and I know that I got this wrong now, is I listened to a Stephen Bartlett podcast. He had someone like you in the health field on, saying about how you've got to eat a variety of foods to keep your gut healthy. Whereas when I said, all right, I'm going to change my life, I'm going to get fit, I went and got a fitness coach, and he put me on this really restricted diet. So I was eating chicken breast, rice, broccoli every day, same thing. And that's really bad for your gut health, right? You need a variety of foods, a really wide variety as well. So anyway, that's handing back to you. I mean, what are the things, I guess, I'm interested in is when an entrepreneur comes in, describe the average nut job entrepreneur that comes in and how you work with them.
Definitely. I just want to rewind on just what you mentioned with just processing and all the stuff that goes on in your head, right? Because I do think, and especially with men, you do feel shame and guilt about stressing and worrying because look at how good my life is and whatnot. It's such a normal response because you are being bombarded with stresses every day. Your amygdala, that smoke alarm off, is going off all the time. Of course, you're going to feel this way. You know, it's a normal physiological response, and your brain is looking for the danger to keep you safe. But we're not, hunter and gatherers anymore, where the only thing we have to worry about is a saber-toothed tiger that's going to eat us. We've got a million things, plus social media and 24-hour news and all the stuff we're bombarded with. So we're constantly in that and stressing and worrying. So it's very normal. And there are lots of ways that we can regulate that. I want to, just talking about you writing things out, something, and I think I might have told you about this. One thing I get my clients to do, and this is an amazing modality that anyone can do, and it's the best way to help regulate your nervous system and process how you're feeling, and it's called EFT, or emotional freedom technique, or tapping. There's lots of YouTube videos online. And it is the best thing because what it does, and it's funny because it's such a woo-woo modality. You're tapping on meridian energetic points in your body. But what it does is it turns off that amygdala. Okay, so it turns off the smoke alarm in your brain. So if you're tapping on something that's stressing you out and you're saying it out loud, whatever, even though I got a $10,000 fine, and you kind of repeat this pattern, this statement with these tapping movements, it'll turn the amygdala off. So when you think about that in the future, you don't get that fight or flight response. And it works very quickly.
I did that, and I thought this is woo-woo as hell when I went in. And I forgot I did this as part of my recovery from chronic panic attacks. And he got me tapping my forehead and my eyebrow and my nose and all this as I was thinking about something that would usually send me into a tailspin. And it interrupts that neural pathway and breaks it. And it instantly fixed it. And I was like, oh my God, that's ridiculous, but it worked.
That's amazing. And I have to say, it is very woo-woo, but there's over 16,000 studies on PubMed showing its efficacy. In particular, there's quite a few studies on like returning American soldiers from Afghanistan and PTSD, which is quite interesting. So you can do it anytime, anywhere. You can do the full sequence. You can, like driving over here in the car, I was just tapping on one point. You can go and sit in the toilet for 5 minutes if you're having a bad day and you can't stop thinking about things, and tap through whatever's going on.
Like when I went and got bloods, I went through a period I had to get a lot of bloods, and they tap you on the other arm to take it, and it takes your attention away from the injection, but it's a form of tapping.
There's
very powerful.
There's a huge link to the PTSD part of it as well, and like you said, there's heaps of YouTube videos. There's one guy in particular, I'm not sure if you remember his name.
Brad Yates is my favorite.
And he kind of guides you through the things to say as you're tapping. And I remember answering some of his questions while tapping and just having this big release of emotions, things that I've been holding on to probably for all my life. And just that process of tapping allowed me to
So it's basically a pattern, isn't it? So what is the pattern, just out of interest?
So you're tapping on your inner eyebrow, under your eye, here, so on the corner of your eye, under your eye, above your lip, on your chin, on your collarbone, under your arm, and on top of your head. And you tap about 8 times on each spot, and you do that a few times. And it depends on what's going on with what you're thinking about. But Brad Yates is a good one. He'll have one on what maybe like just guilt or shame or anger or resentment or, like lots of different emotions. He has thousands of those, so they're very specific and you can tap on. But what it's doing is, from a physiological standpoint, is shutting off the amygdala. So shutting off that smoke alarm. So it's even a great way to start the day. So you're not straight into, oh my God, survival mode. And it's not something like you just do once and you're cured from whatever. It's something you want to do
It's a tool.
most days. It's a tool for coping, and it's a tool to get your body out of that fight or flight state. It's a really powerful tool.
The funny thing about panic attacks is they can get you at the most incredibly mundane of moments.
Yes.
Like I can think of 2 times. Once when I had a full-blown panic attack just going for a morning beach walk, and I was literally 500 meters from my apartment, and I looked back up the beach and saw my apartment was 500 meters away, and had a full-on panic attack because when I was very young I had agoraphobia, and I went into this full like, what if I can't get back? What if I dehydrate, or what if I need the help of a stranger? It's just completely irrational. Another one was here at Ferry Road Markets, just down the road. I had to go into a optometry clinic that's down there and say, I need help. Can you help me? And I ended up in the fetal position in the back. Officers there, and the ambulance came. And it was a clear blue day, no reason, money in the bank, everything's fine. And then this is where tapping can come in, when you can feel that coming. It's literally like an off switch for that chain of thoughts that leads to an ambulance in extreme cases. It's very powerful.
Yeah.
I want to bring you back to where we were talking about coffee, alcohol, and sugar, because I don't drink coffee anymore. I don't drink alcohol, but I love my sugar. Now, how is sugar? Because I think sugar is probably a bigger problem than is the best, I think, right? Than probably coffee and alcohol, to be honest. And it's hidden in so many things. Because I get, well, as of late, probably the last 3 to 6 months, I would say, I get like proper sugar cravings. Like I'll just have a day, I'll have breakfast, I'll have lunch, right? And then maybe miss a mid-afternoon snack, and then go home and go straight to the cupboard, for chocolate.
You'd be talking to a lot of people right now.
Yeah, or something sweet, right? And I don't feel like my energy, at times, it's not that my energy even feels low at that point. It's just this, almost like this addictive behavior of like, just give me that hit of sugar. Why is that? And again, how is sugar impacting our gut health, which obviously is impacting our mind?
Well, sugar doesn't only impact your gut health, it's everywhere, right? It's terrible for us. Added sugar, whole forms of sugar in fruit and vegetables are okay. The reason why you're going to get cravings or need all that sugar, there's a few different reasons, right? I mean, the first one can be, it's a coping mechanism for stress. So it's, you feel really good, right? When you have it, it's going to give you a bit of dopamine. It's going to give you a bit of serotonin, give you a bit of mood boost. It's comforting. You feel safe having it. So there's that side of it, that relationship with food and sugar that we have. And a lot of that kind of takes you back to childhood as well, where our relationship with food develops. But the other reasons are definitely if we are stressed and overwhelmed, it is going to impact our serotonin, especially if we're not sleeping well, our happy hormone, and our dopamine and our GABA. And our brains aren't always the smartest. So like complex carbohydrates, which have some form of glucose in them, have your B vitamins, a lot of minerals, magnesium and zinc, which your body needs to make these happy hormones and relax you and calm you. So your body will crave those minerals and vitamins, but your brain identifies, well, sugar, like anything that contains sugar is carbohydrate, so it must contain these other nutrients. Usually it doesn't. So we'll eat that, and that will give us what we think we need, but it doesn't. So we get the calming effect of it from the comfort, but we're not getting those nutrients needed to make the happy hormones to calm us down.
Is there any truth to the line of thinking that the majority of the reason that people snack at the end of the day rather than at the start of the day is because of the days? There's only like so much stress you can take throughout a day, and then when you get to the end of the day, your willpower is diminished.
Yep.
Like Steve Jobs used to wear the same thing each and every day because he wanted to take away as many unnecessary decisions as possible.
Yeah.
Is there truth to that?
There's definitely. It's like the same as alcohol, right? Like you don't have the energy, and even if physically you're feeling okay, mentally you may not have that energy to make those healthier choices. But a lot of the time when we're running on that high cortisol state, again, cortisol, when you release cortisol, you get a surge of the glucose from your liver or your muscles into your bloodstream to give you that energy. eventually your blood sugar is going to crash in the afternoon. And that's usually, especially if it's like you get home or it's the afternoon, you're like, give me all the things, and you can't kind of control how much you eat. You're starving or you just want all that food. So it's because your body's like, give me quickly some sugar so I can get that energy back up. And then this is where we get that blood sugar dysregulation. But the other thing that happens too with craving sugar and wanting sugar is when we have a bit of dysbiosis in our microbiome, so an overgrowth of bad bacteria, in particular one called Candida. Candida thrives on sugar, loves sugar. So if you have an overgrowth of that, it may not be you that wants the sugar, right? It's the Candida that's like, give me the sugar so I can overgrow even more. And then you end up in this vicious cycle of blood sugar dysregulation, cortisol dysfunction, and Candida. And then we're just in this cycle of wanting the sugar all the time.
Cancers and all different kinds of things feed on sugar, don't they?
They do. And even when we look at dementia, they're kind of, there's like a term that was coined called type 3 diabetes, right? Because one of the issues, and there's a lot of factors that play a role in, age-related disease, especially with cognitive decline and dementia, but one of those is the brain's inability to utilize glucose properly, and that's because of insulin resistance. And look, I think if you want any motivating factor, like if you want something to motivate you to do anything for your health, go to a dementia ward and just spend an hour in there, because I have family members that were my pop was in a dementia ward and he passed away from dementia. Like nothing will go, you know what, I want to try and do everything I can. And blood sugar and sugar will impact that as well. Yeah.
We got to chat to our buddy Candida, because I think mine's growing. I don't know what yours is like, but you're the one always going, hey, do you want the tart? Do you want the pecan tart? Do you want the Lamington?
This is really depressing, this podcast.
I don't want it to be depressing, because it's actually, and I should have said this at the beginning, I don't want to be a downer, because it's actually really easy to be healthy and still enjoy all the stuff if we get the right routine and strategy, right?
And that is one of my biggest questions.
Yes.
Well, two main questions. One is, how should we be waking up? Because when I wake up, I'm on.
Yep.
I'll go brush my teeth, right, do my thing.
Yep.
But straight away, I'm not just meditating and going for an hour walk. Like my mind is switched on, phone, email, messages, WhatsApp, Instagram DMs, and I literally have proper full-blown arguments with my missus because she tells me that I shouldn't be doing this, and I know I shouldn't be doing it, but I fucking can't control it. Yeah. I'll be honest with you. This is something I need to change.
What can't you control?
Just being on in the morning and not just going, okay, take an hour to yourself.
Dude, and you don't drink coffee.
Right. Yeah. Like don't think about, like I am just thinking about all the things I need to do.
Yeah.
Right. And, just grabbing the phone, grabbing the laptop, instead of just taking that time out. How important is it to have, I guess, a half decent morning routine? Because I think there's so much information overload out there at the moment when it comes to a morning routine, and everyone trying to sell you their program on this is the best morning routine and this is how you should do it. And we've got all these different things. We've got infrared saunas and ice baths and a lot of different stuff. So
hey guys, we recently ran a property day where we took people on the road in 2 buses and showed them 12 real estate deals. 4 of them were commercial and the rest were land subdivision deals around the Gold Coast and southern Brisbane. And this is the workbook. It's a 43-page workbook where we actually show you each and every deal, how much was paid for it, how the development was done, how much money was made, and so much more. And we've decided to give this away to anybody who's interested in this kind of thing. All you need to do is go to unemployable.com.au/2024, 2024. It'll give you an insight into what our coaching clients get when they join us in the program. It'll show you how millions of dollars were created through real estate deals right here in Australia just in the last few years, and you can get it for absolutely free. Go to unemployable.com.au/2024.
What do you recommend? What's a little hack, I guess, for someone like me that has a struggle in the morning.
Yes.
I sleep half decent, I think. Probably not. I still wake up at night and stuff, but I'm not like James as an example, which does not sleep, which is a whole other issue. But yeah, how?
And actually, I'll dive into sleep as well. But
Yeah.
look, because the way that I work with one-on-one clients. Like it's all about what your lifestyle is like. So I'm not going to tell a mother of 4 kids that's getting up and trying to get 4 kids off to school, like sit and meditate for an hour. Like that's unrealistic. So I ideally, I think if you have the space to have 20 or 30 minutes to sit and have a cuppa, and just ease your way into the morning, not go straight for the work stuff, the emails and all that. Maybe you just have a read on your phone of something, I mean, I get on my phone and I scroll in the morning and I drink a cup of tea, and that's just my way of waking up, and it's not too stressful for me. So that works for me. So it's being realistic, obviously, but I personally don't think it's ideal for you just to be up and all the things, because you're starting your day stressed, right? Even if mentally you're not super stressed, but you're thinking about all the stuff you've got to do. So the slower the morning you can have, the better, within reason of what is going on with your life. So maybe for you get up and you make like a nice cup of tea and you sit in the sunshine for 20 minutes and just, or you have a book that you can read. So it's just a bit slower. This is what I recommend though. Wake up, and you can, again, I love doing ice baths. I do saunas in the morning sometimes, but sometimes I don't feel like doing that. But the most important things are eat within 1 hour of waking, eat a high protein brekkie, don't have coffee on an empty stomach, get morning sunshine for at least 5 minutes. So that might be have your cuppa and your brekkie in the sun, get that sunlight on. That's going to regulate your circadian rhythm. It's going to support your neurotransmitters and your melatonin and your sleep. And then start your day. So give yourself that space to get your brekkie, sunlight in, and then maybe you kind of rush into all the things that you can do.
Does Eric's sphincter sunning actually count? Is that good for you?
Yeah, I've been doing that lately.
Ankles in the air.
Yeah. The ray of sunshine just...
It's quite invigorating.
Maybe you
People say I got a glow.
You mentioned circadian rhythm. Like maybe you can touch on that a little bit more, and because a lot of the stress and the gut issues and everything is your circadian rhythm being thrown off, right?
Yeah. Again, it all ties in with each other. If you're in a high cortisol state, especially in the evening, it won't allow you to produce melatonin, your sleep hormone. So then you're not going to get that good deep sleep, and it'll obviously impact the circadian rhythm. We have our main circadian rhythm, but we have multiple little internal body clocks, and that will impact your digestion, your liver detoxification, when your hormones are released, all of that, which then will have an impact.
Huberman talks about that, like getting the eyes, the sun rays into your eyes to release those chemicals into your gut, to release,
yes,
to set the clock, basically.
Kickstart the day, basically. Yeah.
But you got to be careful, because I've heard if you wear contacts or glasses, like it's not going to penetrate the eye. Is that correct?
Look, I even get a lot of my clients, as long as you can have your eyes shut as well, because that sunlight's going to hit your eyelids. You can, as long as it's kind of hitting your face for at least 5 minutes. I mean, maybe you probably wouldn't want to wear glasses because the magnification of a glass. Yeah.
So basically, the whole of Melbourne's got to move.
Yeah, well,
That's why
I've been trying to tell you.
They are moving. They are moving.
And if you're waking up at 5 a.m. and there's no light out, well, I just say like as soon as the light's out.
Yeah,
because it does affect mood. Like I have so many people who come and visit Queensland for real, and just say everyone's just so friendly up here, and everybody's so happy.
Yeah.
But it's because we got the sunshine on us, I reckon, for real.
100%.
Like on the Gold Coast, people are friendly and are happy, and
people will say to you, "Oh, it's because you're on holidays. You felt that way." But we when we moved up and we were here for eight months, and every single day felt like a holiday, we realized that it was more than that.
Yeah.
It's
and sunlight recharges your mitochondria, the batteries of your cell. So energizing your body at the most cellular level, just having sunlight on your skin.
vitamin D, right? Like
Vitamin D, which is needed for gut health and hormones and happiness. Yeah.
So we got coffee. No, just a quick question on that one. You said you had tea. Is tea, like if you get a black tea, which is full of caffeine as well, is that better than coffee?
Much better.
And why?
Well, there's not as much caffeine in there. So the amount of caffeine won't spike that cortisol. So my morning routine is I have 2 cups of English breakfast tea with a splash of milk every morning. Like I don't do anything
After food.
and you can have that on an empty stomach.
Ah,
So that one's okay. So I'll have that first, laying in bed, reading, just having my slow morning, and then I'll have my brekkie. So that is what I get a lot of clients to do. If you do need that kind of warm beverage to kind of pep you up, it'll give you enough caffeine to feed the gremlins in your brain without spiking that cortisol.
What about decaf? Is that a problem, having decaf?
Not necessarily. There's still be a small amount of caffeine in there. I will drink decaf as well. I don't think it's going to have an impact on the cortisol. So you could get around it. Yeah. I guess it's more, and I mean, there's levels to health. So, you know, you can be like perfectly organic and whatever and not eat any processed food. But obviously we all want to kind of see what suits us. But, you know, some of these decafs may be processed with weird chemicals. I don't know.
I've read about that. And they say get water filtered, and some of them use chemical bleaching to get it out.
Yeah. So I guess that's really, you know, but if you're like, you know, what's the worst case? What's the lesser of two evils? I have a decaf. Maybe it's processed with chemicals, but it's not going to spike my cortisol. Or I have a cortisol.
Because for a lot of people, it's not just the coffee; it's the ritual, it's the smell, it's the sitting down with a friend. Like my wife was here just before we started recording. I've just had a coffee, and she cuddled me and she goes, "Oh my God, I can smell that coffee on you." And she's not drinking coffee, and she's like, "I hate you, but I love you." Because it is. It's like crack, right? Like it's a routine. It's a connective ritual for many people. So
I'm not saying you can't drink coffee, but just not on an empty stomach. And ideally, especially if you're having sleep issues, not after 11 a.m.
Yeah.
James, are you listening to this? I hope you're listening to this.
So
no coffees after 11 a.m.
Coffee, sugar. What was the other one?
Alcohol, coffee, sugar.
Yeah. Those
were the three
big ones for people.
Yeah.
And I think the other one is bread, right? Because bread can be really bad for, and carbs, pastas and things are bad for gut health too, or not?
Not necessarily. Like whole grains can be good for the gut because grains are really good for feeding that microbiome. But I guess it depends on the person if you have a gluten intolerance or celiac disease or anything like that. I recommend, like, if you're going to eat bread, have a sourdough because it's fermented. So it's got some, you know, gut benefits there, but it's easier for your gut to digest. And if you're going to have pastas, you know, whole grains, like wholemeal, whole grain flour, so it's lower GI, so it won't spike your blood sugar.
So the brown pastas.
Yeah, the brown pastas. But I guess
stuff that tastes like shit.
and it depends on where your health's at too. Like if you have insulin resistance, you're struggling to lose weight, then you'd probably cut back on those carbs, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry, I mean, it's like
when I go out to dinner with you, if you don't have the brown pasta, I'll be pissed off. I won't talk to you.
Well, good luck trying to find it going out. But I mean more at home. But again, 80-20 rule. Like if I'm going out for dinner, I'm going to a beautiful Italian restaurant. Like I'm obviously going to get a beautiful pasta because
I think that's the key. You've got to have that on the horizon. Like I think that's where a cheat day is so good.
Yes,
because I consumed so much health stuff there for a while. I found myself like not enjoying my life anymore, and I'm like, I think it should be illegal to go to Paris and not eat their bread, for example. Like that should be a crime.
Yes.
Like if you die and don't have their pastries, then you have not lived a full life.
I agree.
So you got to make room for these things.
For the good stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why if you live 80 good, 20 bad. So and that might change obviously, but 80% good. 80% good is like a whole food diet. You know, meat, veggies, a bit of fruit, nuts, seeds, healthy fats. You know, so a lot of home cooked food obviously, and then 20% eat whatever you want.
Yeah.
You know. We will, I had a cocktail yesterday. I will definitely be having more tonight because I didn't have to be on a podcast, you know, and that's okay. And I'll go home. I'll probably not feel great, but I'll just get back on my 80-20, maintain my weight, help address my health issues that I've had myself. And I say that to clients too that are going overseas, like, you know, we have a consult, we're going to make a plan before you go overseas. But I'm like, if you're going to Italy, the biggest regret you'll ever have is not eating all the yummy food, you know?
Yeah.
How important is it to be one of those people that goes to the organic markets at the local school on the weekend as opposed to going to Woolies and Coles for your fruit and veggies? Question. Because I know here on the Gold Coast, my wife is there at the crack of dawn to get the good stuff before anyone else. And when she gets there, it's already packed as well.
Yep.
So obviously there's something happening there. Before I met her, did not eat organic. I just ate whatever Woolies Coles gave me. now it's all organic. But
Yes.
from your point of view, like how important is organic versus non-organic?
I mean, I definitely think it's important, but again, I just want people to do the best they can. So if you're not able to afford organic or access organic, if you're eating heaps of veggies that are not organic, that's better than not eating any, right? So I guess it's wherever you're at with your life.
But is there a difference, like in terms of like nutritional value?
Definitely. I mean, when you look at the way a lot of organic, especially when you go to local farmers markets, the farming practices, the soil is more nutrient rich, right? That means that the fruit and veggies are going to have more nutrients in them. Usually they're they're picked fresher. So they only picked the day before or a few days before. The longer a product is on like a vegetable or produce is on the shelf, it's dying, it's losing nutrients every day, right? So the more nutrient dense it is, the more bang for your buck you're going to get as far as nutrients go, for sure.
And he's asking it because he's wanting to know if he's actually getting ripped off on his $12 cucumbers or not. Like he just...
I'm sure of it, dude. Like I go down there and I count the heads and I'm like, these fucking farmers are killing it.
Honestly,
But-
it's
but-
ridiculous.
If you can afford it and you
Yeah.
have, I would definitely. And look, I have a farm in the middle of nowhere, and so I have a lot of neighbors that are farmers, and it's a lot of work to produce our food, right? So
I'm joking.
Oh no, definitely.
I absolutely want to support local farmers.
And then you're
for
supporting
sure.
that, the gentler farming practices, which are better for our environment as well.
There's another rabbit hole that we probably won't go down, but the non-organic food, like all the pesticides and things that they use to keep it fresh, is bad for the microbiome, which we discussed before.
Yeah, definitely. You're never going to be able to remove all of the pesticides from your produce, and also there's a lot that are used in grains as well, but you can soak your produce in like a mix of vinegar, water and bicarb soda, and that will leach most of the external crap off them.
That won't taste.
No, you do about if you do probably 2 or 3 liters of water, like warmish water, not hot at all, with like a cup of vinegar and like a few tablespoons of bicarb, and then soak them for about 30 minutes and then rinse them off, and you'll see all the gunk come off.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I think you can buy, a lot of companies sell like veggie washes now. I've never tried them. I just use that. That will help reduce your exposure to a lot of pesticides. Yeah.
I'm very interested on hearing your story and how you got into this longevity space.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I should rewind. I was not a normal child. I was always obsessed with like the body and how it worked and nutrition. And even like the age of 8, I was reading, books about body functions and, how pee's made and poo's made and just like weird stuff like that. And about the age of 12, I remember I had, on both sides of my family, like my grandparents all had really chronic diseases, cardiovascular disease. My grandpa had like a triple bypass, and he had something hanging out of his chest for like 20 years. I'm not sure what it was, like the machine that his body rejected. My pop had dementia, diabetes. But at the age of 12, I used to like anxiety, have panic attacks about my parents getting old, me getting old, and just seeing everyone get old and die, right? And I never understood why we just accepted, like especially in the 90s, like you get to 60 and you kind of just like sit there and waste away. You don't do anything to try and be healthy. Like this is what happens, right? And I never understood that. So I was always kind of obsessed with that side of health and nutrition and being healthy from a very young age. But the catalyst for the longevity part was really like my pop got vascular dementia. So he had a stroke and got dementia, and we would go visit him in the dementia ward. And that is that's probably the worst disease you could ever get, I think, because it's a slow, drawn out death. It's terrifying for everyone involved, but especially the person that has it. And that traumatized me. And I just was like, there's no cure, but like there's got to be things that we can do, right, to help prevent this and other things from happening. And then I discovered naturopathy, and something just clicked for me, because it was all about addressing the root cause, using nutrition and lifestyle and all these things to help prevent disease and heal the body. So I started studying naturopathy, and while I was doing naturopathy, I did it's the Australasian Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. They have like a certification. So I did that while I was studying, because I really wanted to have that knowledge when I went into practice. So regardless of what a client would come and see me for, I was helping them with that. And I had my issue was I had a lot of health issues as a child. I had a really bad blood infection, and I was put on like an antibiotic drip for weeks. I couldn't fight it. And that was the start of my health issues because it completely wiped out my microbiome. It saved my life. I would have died without it. But then my microbiome was completely destroyed and I had a lot of mental health issues, anxiety and depression. I now know doing genetic testing that I have genetic SNPs that, make me more susceptible to mental health and hormonal imbalances and insulin resistance and diabetes. And I ended up having, from the anxiety and the depression, that was a form of chronic stress for me. And that triggered hypothyroidism, so underactive thyroid and insulin resistance. And I had adrenal dysfunction. So I was a hot mess. I couldn't lose weight. I had like this little spare tire, or I guess what they would call like skinny fat, right? But spare tire, couldn't lose weight no matter how much I was going to the gym, doing all these things. And then I started studying naturopathy and I was like, hold on a minute.
This is all documented on your Instagram too, right? Like some of the befores and photos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So maybe if you want to go see Michaela's Instagram, what is your Instagram?
The Longevity Remedy.
The Longevity Remedy.
Yes. Yeah.
Just straight up, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a lot of people will relate to that. Skinny fat is a real
Yeah,
thing. People
yeah.
who do all the right things, but have just got these.
Yeah, and because I wasn't eating right for what my body needed. I wasn't addressing the root cause, and then discovered naturopathy, we do a lot of pathology study in naturopathy and I use it in my clinic. So I was able to do a bunch of blood tests and figure out what's going on and got my health, back to a level. I'm always, there's always things like, I'm never perfect because I'm not perfect, but I'm able to maintain my health pretty reasonably. And I've now put in practice the things that are important to me, which is number one, preventing dementia, because I have a family history. My dad was recently diagnosed with early onset dementia. So I want to do what I can. And the benefit, I think, of working towards preventing dementia is it's going to impact the rest of your health, right? Because it's all interrelated. So that's my motivating factor, rather than for a lot of people, their main goal for being healthy is to lose weight, right? But no one ever sticks to a plan long enough, I don't think, to lose weight. But if you reframe it to a longer term goal, it's easy to kind of keep yourself on track.
And one of the amazing things now today with the whole longevity industry that's starting to grow up is the fact that the majority of the things that are being spoken about all lead back to prevention.
Yes.
So the best things for we can maybe talk about some of the hacks and some of the supplements out there.
I want to talk about a hack that everyone's crazy about at the moment for weight loss, Ozempic.
Yeah.
What is Ozempic doing to people?
Well, I don't know a lot about the long-term implications of the drug. It does work on a few different processes in the body. It's slowing down gastric emptying, so it's keeping you fuller for longer, so people aren't feeling hungry. It does work on the insulin and blood sugar response, so it increases insulin, which helps keep blood sugar stable. So there are people that have a lot of benefits from it. I have clients that are on it, and I'm supporting them in other ways as well. I'm not anti pharmaceuticals. I think there's a place for those. I think the problem with something like Ozempic is that for a lot of people, it's like a quick fix still. They're not changing their diet or lifestyle. They're not worrying about maintaining their muscle mass and nourishing their microbiome and fighting inflammation. So they're just starving themselves to lose weight.
It stops digestion, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it's you can get issues where it will shut it down completely and things won't move through. So there's definitely side effects and a lot of risks.
It's not sustainable.
No, I think if you're not...
The way I look at it, it's not sustainable. You're going to stay on it for the rest of your life, or at some point you're going to get off it. And if you haven't changed your habits, right, and what you put in your mouth, what's going to happen?
Exactly.
Right, you're gonna gain. This is the way I'm thinking about it. You're gonna gain weight again, and then you're gonna be in this depressive state again, looking at yourself, going, "Oh, look at me now," because you haven't dealt with the root problem, and that's obviously where you come in and say, everyone's got these Band-Aids, yet you're dealing with people like Mark and others, at the root.
So, I know for a fact Michaela would never say, get off that medication or get off this or don't do that. Yeah. But the whole process is to support people on that journey to making the change to the point where they don't need the medication.
Yeah.
But it is a massive craze, isn't it?
It is.
It's everywhere.
A really good mate of mine who I respect as a person, he's a smart guy, and he went on Ozempic. And, my typical response is, "Oh, it's a drug, don't do it." Da 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 da. And I'm not a doctor, so I don't know, But he said, "Look, I'm being managed by a doctor, and I lost 8 kilos when I went on it, but I'm only on it for a short period, and I went off it, and I was off it for 3 months or something, and I put 1 kilo back on, kept 7 of them off, and I'm doing one more round of it to trim down." But it's an interesting one, because sometimes drugs, I literally, not an endorsement at all, but it's like I have friends who suffer from mental health challenges that went on drugs and it dramatically improved their life.
100%.
So I think there is, like you say, a place for I don't know about Ozempic at all, but I'm just saying that I think if you're doing it go and make sure you get proper medical supervision and with a well-balanced diet, and recognizing you have to make changes. But I don't know enough about it. I was just curious what you thought.
I think the point is as well is that a lot of people, health is definitely a spectrum thing. It's not like A, B, or C. Health is a spectrum. And I think the point of a lot of what you've been saying today is that we really need to do whatever we need to do to get to that baseline. And then once we get to that baseline where we're level, then we can focus on optimization. Then we can focus on longevity. Like, I've been seeing you now for 6 months, and we haven't even started focusing on longevity yet, because we're just focusing on getting me back to that baseline. So, I would again, not promote any pharmaceuticals, but definitely, if there's anyone out there that's kind of like anti-pharmaceutical, have an open mind, because the most important thing, especially with anxiety and depression, is to get back to baseline to a point where then you can then optimize your life moving forward. So
talk to a doctor or somebody who's got the training to help you.
And we live in a time now where we have the best of both worlds, right? With naturopathic medicine, like, it's rooted in evidence, and it works so well alongside allopathic medicine if that's what you want to do. But it also works amazing on its own as well. Yeah.
What about NAD, NMN?
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that one? Because that's often thrown around.
Yeah, resveratrol, NAD, aka Sinclair.
I'm on all that.
All these guys.
I've got the whole stack.
And you ate 2 Lamingtons before.
And you can, the one that I love most, my favorite, is olive oil and tomato paste. Because that's just so simple, and it's probably one of the best anti-aging.
Plus, you're
Are
Italian.
you Italian?
Are you Italian? What are you talking about?
Paisano.
How you been doing that anyway, bro?
Well, overall, as a whole, the longevity supplements do definitely have a place. They are a great additive, regardless of which one it is. They all have kind of different benefits. But I think, and we get stuck in this kind of, there's no one thing, so just taking NAD is not going to prevent anything if you're not addressing your diet and lifestyle and supporting your microbiome and those things. Exactly. Yes.
Can you explain for the layman what NAD or NMN is?
So it's a molecule, and what it does is it activates a whole different bunch of processes in the body. So it has far-reaching effect on the body, and it's a precursor to another compound which I can't pronounce. But what it's shown to do is it does help address some of those kind of root causes of aging, especially when it comes to inflammation and oxidative stress in the cell. There's been some evidence for cognitive function and brain health, cardiovascular health. And
does it mimic what the body does when you fast? Is it?
Yes, similar. So, and that's kind of the goal of a lot of these longevity supplements is basically your body's having like a survival response to them, and so it's protective response. Yeah,
starts repairing cells and mitochondria.
Yeah, but I take an NAD or NR Supreme, but it's on top of everything else that we're doing, and I think a lot. Like one of the number one anti-aging foods you could ever eat is olive oil.
Right.
Hands down, olive oil, but like good quality Aussie, Australian olive oil. Because a lot of cold pressed, a lot of the olive oils now are adulterated, mixed with other blends.
So what was Mark's little magic potion there?
So, we do the olive oil. The studies show between 20 and 30 mils a day is ideal. And it's obviously it's very high in fat, but it actually has been shown to improve your waist circumference, so lower visceral fat and support insulin sensitivity. It's very, very anti-inflammatory. So it's really good for the heart health, the cardiovascular health, like your arteries, your veins, that kind of thing.
It's like oil for the body.
It's just wonderful. Yeah.
So car oil for the car.
Yeah,
Oil.
yeah.
So you have a tablespoon of this. What did you say you have?
I have a tablespoon of olive oil and tablespoon of tomato paste 2 to 3 times a day.
But
2 to 3
yeah,
times
but
a
you
day.
can have it in cooking.
Yeah.
So you cook with it. It doesn't
Put it on
the
your salad.
polyphenol. Yep, the polyphenols protect the compounds in the olive oil, so you can cook with it, stir fry with it, add it to your salads, however you want to have it. Or you could do a shot of it if you wanted to. But it's the polyphenols in olive oil are one of the best foods for the microbiome. So when we look at the microbiome, if you don't feed it, it will starve and die. So you need to be feeding your microbiome with prebiotics. Polyphenols in olive oil are one of them. Polyphenols in green tea are another. Lots of fruit and veggies, obviously, but they love the polyphenols in olive oil. So it's
And
yeah.
just tomato paste.
And
as well.
tomato paste. So tomato paste is one of the richest sources of lycopene, and lycopene is a very anti-inflammatory, anti-aging compound. It has an affinity for the cardiovascular tissue and also in men in the prostate. Now, when you look at like prostate cancer and prostate risk, most men when they die, even if they don't die from prostate cancer, they will have prostate cancer in them when they die of old age. So having a tablespoon of lycopene helps bring down the inflammation in the prostate. It's an antioxidant. It's also very heart protective. All over the body. It's great for skin anti-aging if you're worried about wrinkles. It protects the skin from sun damage as well, among other things.
So you're just buying it in a tin
yes,
at Woolies or
you
something?
are, but you want to buy because it's so acidic. You want to buy it in a glass jar because it will leach the plastic out of like tins and
Everything in
containers,
glass.
right? So I think like Woolies has like a home brand one that's like in a glass jar, a tablespoon of that every day, unless you have gout. If you have gout, don't have it.
A tablespoon and then your high quality olive
Olive
oil.
oil, yeah.
I've been taking sea moss lately as well, which is
It's lovely in minerals.
Really good for minerals, yeah.
I mean, just a disclaimer, everyone out there, see a professional before you start taking anything that you hear on a podcast.
I would definitely, especially supplements. I don't like, there's very few supplements I recommend self-prescribing because, again, you could be taking these things and they're not doing anything.
Yeah.
So many clients come to me when they first come to me and they'll be on like $300-$400 worth of supplements every month and they're just in the worst state of health and they've been taking them for a year and they're not getting better because they're not addressing the root cause, right? So you're better to save your money and figure out what is right for your body.
And I think mental stress is a big starting point because you can't really have any form of health if you've got high levels of fight or flight all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, doesn't matter what you're doing.
No.
I don't know how Elon Musk functions, honestly.
It's
Yeah.
so crazy.
Unless he's looking after his adrenals. But it is very easy to, because, obviously you can't, like the big thing is you can't run away from what you're doing. You can't quit your job and live on a Fijian island, right? But what we can do is protect your body from the stress. So lower your physiological stress response. So rather than your cortisol spiking to here during the day, it's only going to spike to here. And there's a few ways to do that. Herbal medicine is my favorite thing. So usually, there's a few herbs that you'll hear on like podcasts like withania or ashwagandha, rhodiola. They're quite good. But we have an arsenal of so many other wonderful herbs that really improve your stress response. But the big one is, and this is the number one thing I get people to do, to start regulating your cortisol, healing your adrenal tissue, and getting your body out of that physiological stress state is eating a high protein breakfast and then regular protein every 3 hours. So what that would be, and obviously you still want to get all your veggies and fruit, but this is the number one thing for the stress response. So high protein brekkie might be like an egg omelette, 3 or 4 eggs with some veggies in there, perfect. A mid-morning snack, which only has to be like between 5 and 10 grams of protein. So that could be a boiled egg, a handful of nuts, a tub of yogurt. Like it doesn't have to be anything fancy. And then you have your lunch, have some protein with lunch. Maybe that's a piece of chicken, can of tuna, whatever. An afternoon snack, again, maybe a cheese stick, some nuts. You can get fancy with it. And then dinner. And that will stabilize your blood sugar. So you're not going to get any blood sugar crashes or spikes, which will impact that cortisol and won't allow your adrenals to heal. And you're going to stabilize that cortisol. So you're keeping everything kind of low and slow. And then your body will be able to respond. And if you do that for like 2 weeks, you'll see the biggest difference.
Wow.
A lot of it's pre-planning, right? Like being organized and not just Oh no, I'll just grab something on the run
Yes.
today, like the chicken wrap down at the local cafe
Yeah.
that we love having once a week, which
Yeah.
is
The af-
probably very bad for you.
The afternoon, to your point, is a trap for a lot of, like, even
Yeah.
me. The afternoon is when I would be susceptible to snacks, and
Yeah.
I've found, you just mentioned cheese, mozzarella cheese in the afternoon, because
Yeah.
it really has like a beautiful taste to it, and it stops me from going to something worse.
Mozzarella cheese.
That's
all
really tough
over
for
it.
you. A
This
little
is a
Tomato-
promotion for
tomato
Italian
sauce-
cuisine.
Tomato sauce.
Ah, what do you
Come with a
mean?
Dolby grin on.
Can we just eat pizza?
Well, I mean, you could make a
20% of
healthy
the time.
pizza, right?
I think to adding to what you're saying on the dietary side, which
Well,
is,
that's the Mediterranean diet, right? Like, that's why
Yeah.
there's so much in the Mediterranean
yeah,
diet.
yeah, totally.
Blue
Oils,
country, Sardinia, mate.
Yeah, dude, mate, you guys got a lot of it figured out. But I think from just adding a tablespoon of entrepreneurial advice here, the other thing that can be really detoxifying from a stress point of view is getting rid of difficult relationships in your life. There is, every entrepreneur has probably employed somebody that they regret.
Yes.
Get rid of that fucking person.
Boundaries, yeah.
Or have that difficult conversation, because I can tell you as an entrepreneur that there's usually one or two or three difficult conversations. I'm going to get with this guy, right? There's usually one or two or three difficult conversations that you've been putting off, whether it be a bad hire or whether it be a bad supplier, or there's one or two things. Tackle those one or two things that will move the needle stress-wise. I have friends, and sometimes it's family, that you've just got to go, you know what, I'm going to officially stop giving a shit about that person. And
100%.
I had a friend recently, like I ended a friendship a while ago with a particular shared friend. And like my other mate has sort of continued on being friends with this guy for, 2 or 3 years. And then eventually he sort of ended that relationship, and he rang me the other day. He goes, oh my God, I didn't realize how much fucking stress I was carrying from this relationship. And I was like, it's like you've taken a big dump, right? And he's like, yes, it is. It's not a nice way to talk about people, but sometimes there are people in your world that you just need to stop being in your world.
And they're
because
triggering chronic stress in your body.
they absolutely are. And as you get older, you realize a lot of good people in the world I don't know what it is, whether you got, some sort of issues that you need to be around assholes, but just get rid of them.
Speaking,
You mentioned it. You touched on it briefly. You said family, and I was having a conversation with a mate this morning. Oftentimes, family that love you are the biggest source of
Stress,
that chronic stress, and
100%.
it's because they've come to depend on you, and they're creating guilt within, like, and they're not doing things that they're cognitively aware of that they're doing, but they are adding to your general stress levels, and that can bury you.
Definitely.
And so sometimes, I know it. And it might-
Literally, Mark.
literally.
Literally can
Very.
send you to the grave
And
from illness.
Now, it might sound harsh, but if you're going through a period of your life that's high in stress, and it's okay to also distance yourself from family, and
And an easy midpoint from actually ending a relationship is dropping your expectations to zero.
Yeah.
And like really listen to that. Like drop your expectations to zero and your stress levels will drop as well, because the stress is quite often the gap between what your expectations are and the way you're being treated in real
gap in
world.
the game.
And once you realize there's a gap between your expectation and how you're being treated, that's the stress. When your expectation's zero and you get treated like shit, there's no stress, because you don't have any
So true.
expectations of the difference.
Yeah.
And so often we hang on to these high ideals of what our family should be, instead of saying, look, I expect
It is
nothing.
what it is.
It is what it is. And my wife often watches me talk to my dad, she goes, you're just so calm with him. And I'm like, because I don't expect anything.
Now.
Like,
Takes time,
It's
right?
taken a while.
It takes
I'm
a
like,
while.
I listen, I talk, but there's it's managed.
Yeah. And I do say that, like, when we want to get our body out of, after you've been in a chronic stress state for a long time, your body will want to stay there because it doesn't feel safe. Okay. So we need to regulate the adrenals with the nutrition, taking a break from the things that cause you stress. Like a lot of people get guilty about even having a break from your kids or your parents, or having a holiday from your, a few days off, sickies from your work, right? But having a break just allows your nervous system to relax and calm down.
The things and people.
Yes, that are causing the stress, having a break from that. And having, the big one too is time for rest, which I know a lot of people really struggle with because they struggle with the guilt. They've always got to be productive. So my thing is, is doing nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean, exercise is wonderful, right? Walking and filling your cup and doing those things are great, but you need time of literally doing nothing. And I mean like being a sloth on the lounge, binge watching Netflix and just having a break. So, and when you do that, the cortisol drops, the nervous system can start to regulate. And the more often you can do that, the better. So when you start to feel guilty with it, because you're like, oh, I should be folding the washing while I'm watching TV. You know, I should be doing something, or guilty.
This is big.
Yeah. The thing is to reframe your thoughts about it. So rather than feeling guilty, you're going, me laying here, I'm lowering my cortisol, which is increasing my fat burning, which is lowering my inflammation, which is regulating my blood sugar, which is fighting aging. So, when you don't feel like going to the gym, but you go because you know you're going to feel good afterwards, you're going to get a benefit long term, well, that's what my brain does. It's like, think of the long term, do that with the rest and absolutely nothing.
This is really important, especially for the crazy A types that listen to this pod, because sometimes I do that, I have Dave Goggins in my head yelling at me, or keep fucking going. You go hard, you stay hard. And like we listen constantly to this, always in, and you just feel guilty going, I'm just going to go down the beach and lie on the sand until I fall asleep.
Yep.
And then I'm going to come back up and I'm going to watch my favorite show.
We joked about this, Adam. We said one of the most underrated hacks of really successful people is binge watching Netflix. Remember when we were watching Drive to Survive? Like all the really successful people that I've been following have their go-to shows where they just switch off.
Yeah.
They don't want to admit it because they do.
Unless you're David Goggins, right? But
but Alex Samozi, for example, he says, I love dark comedy. It's stress relief for me. I'll watch that sort of stuff. And you've got to have an off switch.
Yes.
That's
Elon Musk plays a lot of video games.
Yeah, he does.
So that could
definitely.
That doesn't surprise me.
I think, with video games, you probably don't want to play anything that's too violent because that might trigger your stress response, but something a bit slower. But it's because, again, you can take all the fancy sups in the world, even if your nutrition is on point, if you don't stop and give your body, and not just bedtime, but give yourself a chance to rest and relax. It's, I think a lot of people too, like no one, I'm 37 and like, I'm just realizing, holy crap, like where did the time go? Like none of us think we're going to age or get old, right? Like we don't look at an 80-year-old and go like, I'm going to be like that one day. Like we're like, I'm never going to get like that. But we all are. But we all think we're kind of 10 foot tall and bulletproof, but it will get you. And the more effort you put in now to lowering the stress and sorting your health out, then you're going to be able to go on adventures at 80 years old. Because what's the point of working and so hard and making all this money if you're going to either drop dead or be in a nursing home and can't barely move?
Happens.
Yeah, I've had this conversation with a good friend of mine as of late that wasn't feeling too well and went and got some blood tests done, and he's got certain levels that are way out of whack. And I talked to him the other day, and he's like, "Yeah, just a bit average, and dealing with this and dealing with that." And he's like, what's the whole point of this? A very successful guy. He's like, what? So he could go on a trip with our family and die of a heart attack, And
do you know how often that happens?
Like I look at my dad, he's, we're Portuguese background, European. He lives in Canada. And honestly, I don't know if he's ever been to the doctor, right? He's mid 60s now and probably not the healthiest, but he just goes through life, and doesn't go to the doctor, and a couple aches and pains here and there. And I'm just like, unbelievable, And then my grandfather, who passed away of dementia, so I totally understand where you're coming from. I've seen that whole journey, which is pretty hectic. Smoked a pack a day, and just ate very badly. He was like a stick though, never gained weight. And, lived till, 89 years old, a couple of years of dementia. And he probably did, an aspirin a day. It's just so funny how there's so many different spectrums of, the people that
Keith
are
Richards,
so unhealthy. Keith Richards, Mick Jagger. Like the guy doesn't age. Like he looks the same. And I'm just like, the stuff he would have put in, in his body over the years. You just go like.
We spoke about genes before and
unreal.
Doing those gene tests. Like there's certain people that have predispositions for certain things because of their gene makeup. Yeah. So there's a gene that makes you more likely to get dementia. There's a gene that makes you more likely to have anxiety, the MT. So
genes does count for a lot.
We're not saying that everybody who smokes or drinks is going to die early.
I saw the comedian on the late night show smoking his cigars, and he smokes his cigars all the time. And The guy says, well, you're 100 years old now. And he says, what does your doctor say about cigars? He goes, oh, he died years ago. But I want for everybody here on the pod to make a promise, because I know you crazy A-types that listen to this pod. After this pod, next time you reach for your phone and YouTube has another suggested pod, whether it's Alex or Mosey or Gary V or whatever the hell, because you're in that little echo chamber of psychotic entrepreneurs, close YouTube, go to Spotify and find your favorite era of music, whether it's the 90s with, Pearl Jam, or whether it's whatever you're into, and turn that shit up and get a playlist and just crank it in the car and stop listening to A-type psychos like us for 5 minutes. Because I've been doing this on Saturday mornings. I've been driving up to Mount Tambourine in the car, and I've been putting on Aussie classics, so Run to Paradise, K-Sand, Cold Chisel.
People told me
pumping and just fuck podcasting, listening to all these personalities. It's really good. And I get up there and I have a dirty Danish coffee, and I'm like, I would fucking rather die 5 years earlier than not have today, because in moderation.
But also, you're having a benefit by de-stressing, right? So they're lowering that cortisol, which is going to have more of a benefit than if you have a croissant and a coffee. Do you know what I mean?
Croissant, and I chat to some random up there about,
or more benefit than any supplement you could ever take.
Totally. And I think there's definitely just a room to remind yourself to enjoy life, to not go out and I don't get smashed. I don't do drugs. I don't do any of that. But just that there is, like you said, as you're doing it, remind yourself
the benefits of doing nothing.
Eric, what do you
People always told me, when you turn 50, that's exactly what you're going to do. You're going to go to Mount Tambourine, top down, eat a croissant, and talk to some random dude about your stool samples.
Yes. And bro, you'll never be happier, brother. Trust me, you'll never be. Oh, you crazy fools.
I'm that guy now. Dom laughs at me. She takes film of me laughing. I'm in my front yard watering my garden, listening to like 70s rock songs at my phone.
But I'm so conflicted, bro, because I'm up there and I'm like, I can't show people this croissant on my Instagram, because all week I've been that hardcore fucker up at 4 a.m. driving my goals. This is going to shatter my image.
But
you can just do hashtag 80/20. That's what I do. Then no one can come for me when I do the bad, because I'm like, it's 80/20, baby.
So, we can. I know that time-wise is creeping in, but a couple of things to end off. How do you test your gut health, number one, and how do you help people, and how can people work with you, and exactly what do you do?
Well, for testing gut health, we can do some stool samples, and we can look at your microbiome. So what level of all the different bacteria is your microbiome at? That would be the main one. There's a couple of different companies I use, but look, it depends on the person. Some people love to get all the testing done to see where they're at. It's expensive though, right? And we don't always need to do a lot of testing to really get your body healthy. So, the protocol I've got you on is it's called the Gut Ecology Metabolic Modulation Protocol, and we're really working on healing the gut immune interface, the microbiome. So wherever your gut health is at, it's going to be as healthy and happy as possible. What was your other question?
Just how do people work with you?
So I work mostly one-on-one online, so all online. And we do like an initial consultation, which usually goes for about an hour. It's very comprehensive. So I get a full health history, diet, lifestyle, down to like what your day looks like. Like, what are you doing in the day? So I can tailor your treatment plan to fit within how busy you are, because obviously everyone's different. We just do one-to-one consults based on that, and we can do some testing as well. And I also have like a little bit of a 4-week kickstart longevity program that people can just join anytime, and it's just like a little bit of a kickstart to heal your gut and hormones, and it's based on addressing the 5 pillars of longevity, which are blood sugar and insulin, stress and adrenals, liver, sleep, and gut health. And it's all on my Instagram, The Longevity Remedy.
Awesome. Yeah. Did you guys
get there?
Have any more questions?
I'm going to go check it out. I mean, I know I'm coming off the back of a phase of, I call it a fuck it phase. I'm just tired of taking tablets and listening to podcasts, and I'm just like, but I also now know I've got to rein it in a bit and get healthier internally. I look fine on the outside, but internally, well, that's debatable, I suppose. But I think it's really good, and I'm glad you came in today, because I I like your approach to it.
Thank you.
I just don't think I can deal with another hardcore Dave Goggins style naturopath.
Yeah.
Because it's not sustainable.
No, it's not.
And I think it's a good reminder. And I like your true holistic approach because entrepreneurs are different.
Yeah.
You know, we deal with a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And
I don't think being because I run my own business, I'm like, thank God I'm a naturopath because I have all the tools up my sleeve. But I just want to say something like there is so much health information out there, and I call a lot of people like with the worried well. There's nothing super wrong with you, right? But you're worried and you're anxious about your health, and it's just about keeping it simple. It's eating a whole food, natural diet as often as you can, less processed foods, as many non-starchy vegetables as possible. So green leafies, any vegetables that aren't like potato. You can still eat some potato. Lots of healthy fats. Like if you're piling your plate with some good protein, lots of veggies and a bit of olive oil, and enjoying those naughty snacks 20% of the time, just start there, get your brekkie in. And then you can, once you get that on top, on top of that, then you can kind of dive a bit deeper. I think a lot of people, when they start a health regime themselves, they go all in, right? And it's everything, and there's like so many things they're doing every day, but it's unsustainable and overwhelming. And after a couple of weeks, the dopamine wears off and you go back to the complete other side. It's like that all or nothing mindset, where my kind of motto is, and most of the people I work with are all or nothing, is forget all or nothing, just do something. So even if today was the only positive thing you could do was like drink extra water, that's amazing, right? Every little positive change you make will have a huge impact over time.
That phrase, the worried well, is so good, because I often think that the podcasting sphere is part of the problem.
Yeah.
Because I've literally opened my app sometimes and it says the ultimate morning routine thumbnail, and right underneath it says, fuck your morning routines. And you're just you're just overwhelmed all the time. And in and of itself, we have this negativity bias to our own habits.
Yeah.
You've got to actually be able to be peaceful in your mind and be happy as a baseline, going, we're doing better than 80% of the world with our baseline nutrition. Go up to Indonesia for a few weeks and go out of Bali and go and look around, and you realize we've got a good baseline, start from a positive place and then work on those few things perhaps.
Yes, definitely. I have on my Instagram too, I have always post lots of health tips as well. So there's lots of good little, nuggets that you can kind of implement into your life quite easily. Yeah.
And the Instagram again is the longevity remedy.
Yeah.
Yeah. All one word. I'd just like to say thank you on behalf of all of us here for coming to the studio and explaining everything gut health to us and longevity. I know you've flown here from Newcastle, was it? Yeah. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Evan.
All right, guys. So there you have it. As you can see, Michela's flown here from Newcastle. A lot of effort to get here. Make sure you share it around with anyone that you think would add value to. Make sure you subscribe. The more you subscribe, the better people that we can get on the podcast. And just want to thank you for your attention today. Thank you and have a good week.
Hey there. I hope you enjoyed that episode of Unemployable. If you'd like to watch another episode, just click there.